Obviously, a lot of conversation about what happened with Vontae Davis.
Right.
He was a starter in the game Sunday, made a tackle, and then at halftime decided to retire in the middle of a game, which I'd never heard before.
Never.
And a lot of people, Mike, have found some gold on the old Twitter machine.
Pulled up some tweets chronologically. I'll do the one from this is August of 2011. This from Vontae Davis. The road to success is hard. That's why a lot of people quit on that road. Don't you be one of them. Keep going.
All right, sir.
Mm-hmm.
Follow that up with a tweet from December 26, 2013. Hashtag Vontae Corner. I can only assume he was answering some questions. Said, the people who succeed in life are those who don't quit, in all caps.
Oh,
And again, we
all right,
were
sir.
both, I know, Mike, you said the same thing. We were trying to figure out, Adam, a reason, trying to say, okay, let's think of it from his side, and neither one of us can come up. It doesn't sound like a lot of people who played can come up with a good reason to understand how somebody could walk into a locker room at halftime and quit football, quit on their team, and leave.
Well, he released a statement after the game.
Oh, yeah, we saw that.
We saw it, yeah.
So, I mean, that's his version of the events. I mean, from our perspective, all he could say is, you guys played. Do you ever see anybody
Never
up and leaving at halftime? I've never seen that. I've never heard of that ever.
Quit the sport. Not just leave the game, leave the sport.
At halftime. Like, I can't even make it through these next 30 minutes.
Yeah.
I can't even.
He started. That's the thing. He started. It wasn't like he was coming in on special teams or he didn't play. He started the game. He was part of the game plan.
And by halftime, he retired.
Oh, my gosh.
walked out.
That's how, if you're the Chargers, you're saying, we beat that team so bad, dude, just up and quit the sport.
Yeah, the sport.
How about it?
Look, on one level, if your heart's not in it, I get it. But you can't tell me you had an epiphany at halftime or during the first. You had to be thinking about this before you lined
I'm
up
not
something.
going to look. I'm not going to justify it.
Right.
I'm just going to say it's obviously emotional, right, for these guys, and they're getting their butts kicked, and he probably obviously been thinking about it, and I just can't tolerate. I can't understand. I can't do this anymore.
I don't get it. I mean, I don't get it. It will be interesting to see if he's off for a little bit and says he wants to try and come back.
Good
luck with that
that.
one. So we'll get more into that one. But while we have
He's
you
made a
here,
lot of money
Adam,
through the years too. Isn't
yeah,
he?
he has.
No.
Yeah, he has. He was a Pro Bowler with the
3
Colts.
years ago.
Yeah, absolutely. Speaking of him not starting anymore, how about starting quarterbacks? Carson Wentz. Could we possibly see him back on the field? And then when is Josh Rosen close to getting out there with how bad the Cardinals are?
Well, it's a good question. And I would imagine we're going to hear Doug Peterson today or tomorrow announce that Carson Wentz is going to be cleared for contact. And I would imagine we're going to see Carson Wentz start on Sunday against the Indianapolis Colts. Now, I don't know who he's going to be throwing the football to. That's a whole other issue.
Right.
With all the injuries they have after that game, there are a lot of players that got banged up. But he's been ready physically. They're just being careful because
Smart.
Exactly. They know his long-term value, and they know the stats and the data on players who come back from injuries that severe after 9 months. They don't want to rush him back. So I think we'll see him next week. And I think if you're the Cardinals and you get shut out like that and you've played 2 bad games back-to-back, I think you got to start thinking about Josh Rosen, right? That's a conversation they have to have this week, don't you think?
Absolutely. I mean, look, I'm not sure a team has looked worse through the first 2 weeks than. I mean, they've been non-competitive. I mean, they were never in the game with the Rams, and they got shellacked by Washington at home in the season opener. So, if this is what we're getting from 2 weeks with this offense as it's constructed, I mean, you took a guy in the top 10 for a reason here in Josh Rosen, right?
Yeah, right. So I don't know what they're waiting for. And by the way, they thought coming into the season that he looked great, but Bradford shined during training camp, looked great, and so they didn't feel the need to do it. Plus, I'd have to see, but I think for every week that they don't start Bradford, they would save $500,000 or so.
Right.
So you save money by not starting him. And if you're 0-2, why do you want to keep throwing that money down the drain? Basically.
It seems to make all the sense in the world. So going from a team who playing poorly might force them into a new quarterback to a team in the Tampa Bay Buccaneers who have outperformed all expectations, how do you balance what Ryan Fitzpatrick is doing right now with knowing in a couple weeks Jameis Winston is going to come off suspension and you've got the long-term future potentially of the franchise to balance?
Well, they'd much rather deal with these problems than the problems
Fair point.
Yes.
they thought many people thought they were going to have once Ryan Fitzpatrick took over for the suspended Jameis Winston. This is a great situation for the Bucs. And interestingly enough, they're on Monday Night Football next week, a week from tonight, at home against Pittsburgh.
Right.
So Howard Katz, the NFL schedule maker, got that one right here for the Buccaneers. Who would have thought that the Buccaneers in Week 3 would have been a great draw? And if Ryan Fitzpatrick plays that way in that game, and they have a short week against Chicago, it's hard to imagine that they're going to let Jameis Winston start to next week. You just let this guy keep going as long as he's playing like this. And by the way, I'll also tell you this. I was told he didn't have a bad day at training camp, that he looked this way all through the summer.
Fitzpatrick.
Fitzpatrick.
Well, we've seen this from him before, right? That's the problem.
Seen the good, the bad, and the ugly from him.
Literally,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
And by the way, that beard is as good as it gets
Yes,
right now.
it is.
But the question with Ryan is always, how long can he do this? Because
But he's done it all through the summer this year. Now, listen, I understand exactly what you're saying, and we don't know at any point on Monday night he could go out and throw 4 or 5 picks against the Steelers.
he's thrown 6 in a game before.
But by the way, again, the Steelers team that Patrick Mahomes lit up yesterday.
Yes, he did.
At home, you're going back in Tampa. Place is going to be jumping on Monday night next week. So as long as he's playing well, I think you just keep riding that train, the Fitz train.